Okay, so we always want to be fair on this show, and part of being fair has been to be honest about some of Trump's cabinet choices. But we made a point of saying with Vivek and Elon with DOGE, well, they're not going to go after the Pentagon, but hey, we would love to be proven wrong. Now, of course, it's one thing to say something, it's another thing to do it. But they're actually bringing up the subject, which I am pleasantly surprised about, honestly. So I'll probably do a deep dive into the claims they're making in this op-ed on Sunday. That'll be a bigger piece. But just as it relates to the military, they published this op-ed jointly about what they plan to do, and they did call out the Pentagon. So just briefly, this paragraph, the federal government's procurement process is also badly broken. Many federal contracts have gone unexamined for years. Large-scale audits conducted during a temporary suspension of payments would yield significant savings. The Pentagon recently failed its seventh consecutive audit, suggesting that the agency's leadership has little idea how its annual budget of more than $800 billion is spent. Critics claim that we can't meaningfully close the federal deficit without taking aim at entitlement programs like Medicare and Medicaid, which require Congress to shrink. But this deflects attention from the sheer magnitude of waste, fraud, and abuse that nearly all taxpayers wish to end, and that DOGE aims to address by identifying pinpoint executive actions that would result in immediate savings for taxpayers. Now, okay, the rest of that, where he's getting into how they would do it, that's for Sunday. But they called out the Pentagon budget, which most people will tell you if you want to reduce spending on the scale they're talking about, and reputedly Trump has told them not to go after Medicare or Medicaid, you'd have to go to the Pentagon. Where else would you go for that kind of money? Now, somebody picked up on this and decided to lend his full support, and as Bernie Sanders. Um, Now, look, Sanders does have a history of working with anybody who supports an issue that he wants to get behind. So I think anyone who's followed his career would not be as surprised as I guess some of the more MAGA people were by this. So here's his statement. Elon Musk is right. The Pentagon, with a budget of $886 billion, just failed its seventh audit in a row. It's lost track of billions. Last year, only 13 senators voted against the military-industrial complex and a defense budget full of waste and fraud. That much change.
Build the wall. Build the
Build
wall.
the wall. Too much of our hard-earned money is going towards migrants who are overstraining our social services and our public schools. That's going to be next.
We have an epidemic in this country of men in women's sports.
My
Just gonna go full bore. He's finally accepted. He's finally been welcomed into a community after 83 years. He's gonna get the whole thing.
I brought my grandchildren to a party. There was a man in a dress there reading the book. I was shocked and horrified.
Yeah.
All right. So Bernie, hey, he jumped onto this, and so he got some interesting responses. And wokeness has hell frozen over, which again, if you followed Bernie's career, this is not as surprising as it might be to some people who haven't. Elon Musk, couple
and
of
wokeness
American
not
flags.
nearly as smart as he thinks he is, as we know.
We have never experienced and wokeness being particularly intelligent in most of his observations.
Yeah.
Matt Gaetz, welcome home, Bernie. Okay, it's overstating it a little. Cenk Uygur, man, he is really dying to jump out in front of the MAGA parade. I asked to be put in charge of this project, but I'm happy to defer to Bernie Sanders. Imagine if Trump put Bernie in charge of keeping the Pentagon honest. It would be the most spectacular act of bipartisanship of my lifetime. Cenk is really sucking up to MAGA, man. He is really trying to get them to watch his channel. Yo, they've already got Timcast. They've already got Timcast. They don't need you. They're not coming to TYT.
Major pick me behavior from
it really is, man. It really is. I mean, he's all over trying to get MAGA to like him now. Now Cernovich, I think, frankly, sadly, is probably closer to the truth here. This is Mike Cernovich. Instead of posting, vote to approve Republican nominees, which you won't do. You're a feckless old man who posts something now and then, but when it's time to use political power, you do what the military-industrial complex orders you to. Looks like somebody's been following Bernie's career in MAGA. Yeah. Where's the lie? So, yes, I think he's right about that. Bernie is one for grand gestures and then throwing on the knee pads when they tell him they're going to prosecute his wife or whatever they threaten him with. All right, so one of our great statesmen, John Bolton, weighed in on the question of DOGE's budget-cutting mission. Let's see what he had to say.
Look, Musk may have a big role here. It's not entirely clear what Trump is going to do with this Department of Government Efficiency. If we can save a couple $100 billion, I'd be delighted. We can spend it on the defense budget, which desperately needs an increase.
So he's all for the mission as long as it doesn't actually save any money.
Right.
As long as it's redirected to the military-industrial complex, which is starved for cash. Now, to their credit, they gently rebuked him. So Vivek quote tweeted it. We need to strengthen our military by focusing on the effectiveness of our defense spending rather than just reflexively increasing the magnitude. And Elon Musk responded to the retweet. DOGE will improve the efficiency of defense spending. So, hey, man, good for them. So just a little bit about the Defense Department, how much of the budget it takes up. In October, the Defense Department revealed that $431.4 billion of defense spending went to contracts last year. Among the leading recipients, Lockheed Martin made $61.4 billion, RTX $24.1 billion, and General Dynamics $22.9 billion. Many contractors exist as essentially taxpayer-subsidized entities. Lockheed, the biggest U.S. defense contractor, made 74.2% of its sales to the U.S. government in the third quarter. U.S. commercial sales made up a mere 1% of total company revenue. I think I might have skipped a slide. Yeah. Defense is the federal government's largest area of discretionary spending, with the Pentagon budget in fiscal year 2024 set at $841 billion, or about 12.5% of the total federal budget. It has also struggled with allegations of waste and cost overruns. Sanders noted that the Pentagon recently failed the seventh consecutive audit of its now $4.1 trillion in assets and $4.3 trillion in liabilities. Last year, the Defense Department admitted it could only account for just half of its assets. Lucrative contracts handed out to private corporations also means billions in taxpayer money is passed on under a regime with subpar oversight. Okay, so basically, you have these huge defense contractors whose entire business is servicing the Defense Department, and it's a Defense Department that can't account for its spending. So this is absolutely why, as soon as they announced DOGE, people said, we'll go after the Defense Department. And hey, they're making noises in that direction. So Elon has really been going after the F-35, which a lot of people have been saying for a while is a program that should be discontinued, that isn't worth what we're spending. Billionaire Elon Musk, the man behind Tesla and SpaceX, said Tuesday, November 26th on X that the U.S. should pull the plug on Lockheed Martin's F-35 made in Fort Worth. Quote, some U.S. weapon systems are good, albeit overpriced, but please, in the name of all that is holy, let us stop the worst military value for money in history, that is the F-35 program. The comment was one of several criticisms Musk made of the fighter, which is expected to cost the federal government more than $2 trillion over its lifespan, according to Defense News.
Wow.
The F-35 design was broken at the requirements level. This is a tweet by Musk, because it was required to be too many things to too many people. This made it an expensive and complex jack of all trades, master of none. Success was never in the set of possible outcomes, and manned fighter jets are obsolete in the age of drones anyway. We'll just get pilots killed. Matt Gaetz responded to that. We should move away immediately toward drones. And Eric Prince of Blackwater says, I don't know if this is true, but this is what he claims. And Lockheed Martin built it in 45 states to make it veto-proof in Congress. Sounds plausible. So Elon also tweeted out what is reportedly footage of China experimenting with its drones, saying, meanwhile, some idiots are still building manned fighter jets like the F-35. So I got to say, this is some Michael Crichton creepy shit. So let's take a look. Now, there's the drones taking off. Look at them in formation. Like, that is some sci-fi stuff. That is like Battlestar Galactica. The Cylons coming for you.
Yeah, and the sound, before I show any more of that, the sound, that sort of insect-like hissing, that is eerie as well. We were being merciful on your ears not playing this at full volume. It's actually very, very loud as well.
Oh, yeah, you got...
Yeah.
Yeah, it's creepy. It's like a swarm of insects.
Yeah.
That is really, anyone who's a big fan of sci-fi, that is a very familiar image. Like these images of future tech where you would be able to have these automated swarms of deadly weapons. And now we're there. And Musk, probably with some validity is saying, yeah, well, why are we even investing in a human piloted fighter that's going to be confronted with this in a few years? Like, who's gonna really be able to fight that? So again, credit where credit is due. Lockheed Martin's F-35 program supports more than 49,000 direct and indirect jobs in the Fort Worth area and generates $9.4 billion in annual economic impact. As a federal contractor, the company's F-35 plays a crucial role in the Department of Defense's ability to meet current and future U.S. national security goals, according to the U.S. Government Accountability Office. But the program has seen production issues and rising costs as the Air Force and Navy plan to use the jets less. The F-35 has not met their readiness goals for the past 6 years, according to the U.S. Government Accountability Office. Asked about Musk's post in light of his expected role in Trump's administration, the company said it is looking forward to working with the incoming president and Congress. Quote, as we did in his first term, we look forward to a strong working relationship with President Trump, his team, and also with the new Congress to strengthen our national defense, Lockheed Martin said in a statement. The F-35 is the most advanced, survivable, and connected fighter aircraft in the world, a vital deterrent and the cornerstone of joint all-domain operations. Incoming U.S. Rep. Craig Goldman, a Republican from Fort Worth, said he will fight for the continuation of an expansion of the F-35 program. He is taking over the district represented by Kay Granger, who is retiring. Goldman said he respects much of who Musk is and the innovations he's brought to the world, but that this is an area where they disagree. He praised the, quote, brilliance of what the F-35 and the capabilities of what the F-35 has been able to do for Israel in the war with Hamas. Musk might change his mind were he to have a conversation with the Israeli government, Goldman said.
Well, if past this prologue, that tends to happen.
That does tend to happen when what Israel wants, Israel gets, especially with the incoming FBI director saying we're not prioritizing them enough. We
Right.
need to prioritize them more. I'm going to fight like hell to make sure those cuts aren't made, Goldman said. All that still has to go through Congress. Okay, so herein lay the rub. It sounds like Vivek and Elon are addressing this matter seriously, to their credit. It is such a corrupt government, and clearly there are so many economic interests. This article repeatedly talks about the economic impact, how many jobs, how much economic stimulus it puts into their local economy. Now you multiply that all across the country. If
Right.
you have to go through Congress to cut this, how are you going to do it? How are you really going to do it? Now, will Trump, we always said this, the fantasy of a Bernie presidency, if he had become president, would have been, well, he should go on TV and call out names. Just
Right.
name people that are stopping his agenda. FDR used to do that.
Right. Of course. Yeah.
FDR primary Democrats.
Right.
Now, will Trump do that? He might, because he's got balls much bigger than Bernie's ever dreamed of having. Bernie probably wouldn't have done that even if he got elected. Trump would. Trump would. Will he? Does he have that commitment? Or is Netanyahu going to get in his ear? No, we need the F-35. It's wonderful. We killed 100 children today with that plane.
Yeah. Well,
Okay. We'll keep it going for you, Ben. You never know with him. He's a wild card. Obviously, they're going to face tremendous opposition from within their own caucus and coalition and party to doing anything like that. Will they have the balls to really take that on? Will they fight through that? Or are they just going to take the easy path, which this we'll get into Sunday, which is more getting rid of federal regulations and decreasing the size of the bureaucracy and calling it a day?
Well, I mean, don't forget, this is an unofficial agency. They're not a government agency, so they can't.
They
They
can't do
can't wave a
anything. They can
magic
make
wand and do
recommendations.
anything.
Right.
They can only make recommendations, and these budgetary matters, yeah, they're going to have to pass through the House
Right.
and the Senate, which means you could have. And look, I hate to rain on anybody's parade here. I know I don't have a reputation for being especially cynical, so I know this is a curveball, but
It really
they
is.
could take the same approach to this that Trump took to, nominating Matt Gaetz. Oh yeah, we recommended that they cut the F-35 program. See, we're anti-military industrial complex, even though they know it's not going to happen, right? Like there could be a lot of that too.
I think I hate to say it. I cannot imagine that Trump is really going to go fight the military
No,
industrial
I don't think
complex.
so. I really don't.
So
think so.
yes, I think it's very Gates. They may make these recommendations, and then they'll blame the corruption, and that'll be that.
Now, the
I would
interesting-
imagine that's what's going to happen. But at the same time, that they can't really be blamed for that per se. The fact that they are raising this issue, the fact that they did include that in their op-ed, I think Elon is sincere that he thinks the F-35 is ridiculous. He's very much the futurist. I think he's looking at these drones and saying, why are we building this? I think they're sincere about that. Are you going to get that through Congress? Very unlikely unless Trump was willing to put an amount of political capital on the line for that cause, which I don't think he's going to put on the line for a cause that's going to cost thousands of jobs.
Yeah, that's the thing. And that's kind of the interesting thing about Bernie's interest level in this. And, Bernie as a figurehead sort of represents a certain left faction that would be more committed to doing things like this. If you involve people who are actually serious, do they try and get a pressure campaign going? And how does that conflict with people who may be just doing it for show? Right. Do they end up taking on too much pressure, more than they thought they were going to, because they actually trick some sincere people into thinking that they're serious about it? It'd be interesting to see how that plays out. But ultimately, at the end of the day, I think you're right. It would take a massive bully pulpit campaign from the top, from Donald Trump.
Yeah.
He would have to basically whip the votes in the House and the Senate for this, and he'd
have to name names and make a lot of threats.
Yeah, this kind of thing would require an FDR level of engagement, being, coming out and saying, we will come for your seat if you don't back us on this. right? Because that's the only way.
That's the only way you'd get this done.
Exactly. That's the only way you get people even thinking about that, which he could do in these nomination appointments. Like, he obviously wasn't willing to do that for Matt Gaetz. That's what gives me hesitation about all this. Like, Matt Gaetz didn't have the votes. There were 4 senators who said they were a no. He didn't even bother trying to whip those votes. He just called Matt Gaetz and said, listen, this is not going to happen. So is he going to go to bat for Tulsi in that way? Is he going to go to bat for RFK or Kash Patel in that way? I don't know. And if he won't go to bat for them, then he ain't going to bat for military cuts. Like, if he's not going to, like, if you wouldn't go to bat for Matt Gaetz, are you going to try and cancel the F-35 program? I mean, we will see. We will see. I don't want to be premature, but given the fact that the agency itself has no teeth, it would take a very, very, very heavy lift.
This is what I'll say at this point, based on what information we have. It seems like Vivek and Elon are sincere about their desire to reorient the Department of Defense in a way that is more cost efficient and more technologically sound in light of future trends.
Right.
Well,
they're not anybody's nephew at the Pentagon, right?
Well, Elon himself is a defense contractor. There are questions of that, but setting that aside,
this would free up more money for him, if anything. I mean, he's not invested in the F-35,
there's that too. His new Tesla drone program, which no such thing exists. But it would not surprise me if it did. It might. Yeah. So you do have that. But okay, on the face of it, I accept that they are sincere, that they have the intention. They would like to draw attention to this. I would not put my money on being able to get anything like that past the corruption of Congress and the Senate. And I'd be shocked if Donald Trump were willing to exert the sustained political effort that would be required to overcome that institutional resistance.
Yeah, I think you're correct about that.
Please clap.